Hi, I'm Betsy. I'm Whole30's digital content producer, and I sat down with Nicole Papantoniou. Nicole's the director of Good Housekeeping's Kitchen Appliances and Innovation Lab, and she shared her expert advice on the best way to store, reheat, and repurpose Thanksgiving leftovers. Let's talk about dessert. Should we keep pies and cakes in their tin or should we cover them? How do you know if dessert needs to be stored in the fridge or if you can leave it on the counter?
So it really depends on what you are trying to save. Most dessert has a ton of sugar and preservatives in it, so it'll last for long on your counter. If something is more delicate or cream based, or just think of things that you would normally keep in the fridge, like something milk based, cream based, cheese based, you'll want to keep that in the fridge. It depends how long you're gonna be keeping these things. You can likely get away with just storing them in the container that they already come in, or again, put them in a container with a lid. Sometimes things will get condensation on them, so that's something you wanna think about, but pies, keep on your counter, enjoy those, um, while you can, but then again, if you want to wrap these desserts in plastic wrap, for example, you can do it that way and store them in your freezer.
Can you freeze holiday leftovers for a later date?
So one thing we haven't really spoken about is vacuum sealers, and I actually really love vacuum sealers for when it comes to freezing. So the beauty of a vacuum sealer is that it takes all the air out of the container, so foods will last longer. So even something like a turkey or a ham, you can put it in a single layer, vacuum seal it, it'll be nice and flat, and that without the air, it'll be less likely to develop air crystals on it or any of those ice crystals, and it'll last long. And then you can just thaw it in your fridge and heat it up you as you normally would. So that's one way that I like to preserve my meats if I were going to do that. And also just remember to like put it into portions that you're going to eat once you defrost them. Like if you're putting a whole chunk of turkey in there, expect to defrost the entire thing. It'll take longer to defrost, so just kind of plan ahead basically. And then same thing with your sides. Like you can freeze most of your sides, especially with a vacuum sealer. There's one really cool company. It's called Super Cubes, and they have those silicone trays that we're talking about, but they're actually designed for leftovers. So they have 1 cup sizes, 2 cup sizes, and you could put different rices, different grains in there, and then just pop them out when you're ready to use them.
You mentioned a vacuum sealer. We all have knives and pots and pans. Do you think a vacuum sealer is maybe one of those items that not everybody has but should have in their kitchen?
I love them, and that's something that I make sure to have room for. I am very particular with how I store my meat. Like, I definitely, if I'm buying meat, it's going to be good quality, and I'm really going to make sure that it's something like I feel good about eating. So, especially if I'm storing it, I want it to still be as fresh as possible. Like, I hate anything that's a little bit freezer burned, and it'll get you really far. I think it's definitely beneficial, especially if you really care about how things taste and can recognize the difference.
What are your favorite containers to send leftovers home with guests?
So this is a funny one because I think most of the times you don't really want to part with the ones that you have at home. So I would recommend beforehand a lot of companies that make meal prep containers. That's a good option because you can buy a lot of them and they are reusable up to a certain point. Like, so they're not as durable as something that's going to last forever, but you can reuse it. So you can buy probably like at least 10 or 20 of them in a pack and not spend too much money. There's also options if you're going to like have something like more cardboardy, like you could do that, like a takeout container. But also takeout containers that you get throughout the year, they're really great to hold on to and give to people to take home. It's like a good way of reusing them, recycling them. Um, and they're good quality. They'll last for a long time.
That's a really great point because a lot of times if you're ordering takeout, some of those containers that you would be purchasing online, you're getting with
Yep,
the takeout food. So you just
absolutely.
save it and you get to, like you said, reuse it. So
Yeah.
such a great tip. Are there any kitchen tools or supplies that make dealing with leftovers a breeze?
My answer is yes, and I'm trying to think of what would be my favorite. So we spoke about those super cubes a little bit. We spoke about vacuum sealers. I love a good ladle. It's so important to be able to have one that's The brand GIR makes a silicone one that has measurement markings on it too, and it's flexible, so it can scrape the bottom of your pan, and you could use it for mashed potatoes, you could use it for gravy, you could use it for soups. So having serving utensils that you're really comfortable with are really helpful. Um, I would definitely recommend that, and then, of course, your containers, like, it's really, to me, important to have containers that are reliable, that'll last a long time, and different shapes, different sizes that'll accommodate different types of leftovers, basically.
What are your best tips for maximizing refrigerator space before a big holiday?
So always, like, you wanna be keeping an eye on your fridge and what you have in there and what's going bad, but I would basically say that especially before a big holiday or when you're trying to host, use that as an opportunity to really go through your fridge. Look at those containers, see what's expired, see what doesn't smell right. Try to use it up before you start shopping, and just, like, clear out as much space as you want, so this way people even feel comfortable helping you clean up after the meal, because if people have to move things around themselves, they might feel uncomfortable and you might be like, "What are they doing? Where is everything?" So the more space that you clear out for them, the easier it'll be for everybody. So just get rid of the things that you're not gonna use. If that hot sauce has been sitting there for 3 years and you've never used it, consider giving it away to somebody, or because something like hot sauce doesn't really go bad, but really just try to keep everything up to date in your fridge. Aside from just, like, cleaning out your fridge and making space in there, you might also wanna make sure that your storage containers are all in one place, they all have lids, so again, that people are trying to help you clean up, you can just point them to one place, and it's easy for them, and they're not rummaging through a million different things.
We talked a lot about storage containers. I'd love to know your advice on what makes a good storage container and what should people look for when buying.
So I really love when you have sets of things, and to me, that's really important because if something's a set, that means that it'll probably store better than if you have a bunch of different types of containers. So I always look for things that are clear or transparent so you can see what's inside them because it's so important to like know what's in your fridge at all times. And then having a lid that secures is really important. So I like to have ones that like the latches seem to work best, so it also has to be easy. So I don't wanna be fumbling with the container. I want it to have nice, easy attachment. We, especially at the Institute, we love things that are leak-proof, and that's such a big claim. So when we say something's leak-proof, it's because we've done several tests and it's, like, worked out that way. So that's what I look for. I like when things stack. I like having an assortment of sizes. Um, and to me, for them to be dishwasher safe is super important, so that's definitely something I look for. And you can choose between glass or plastic. Both have their advantages and both have their cons. Glass tends to be more versatile than plastic because you can often, like, put it in the oven also, and that's a good helpful way for even if you're cooking for like, a smaller batch or reheating something. So it really depends, but, like, plastic, for example, is lighter, so if you're transporting it to work or something, it might be more accommodating. But those are the main things. So transparent, a good lid, they stack, and lots of different sizes and shapes.
What is your favorite part of a holiday meal?
So just being with friends and family, that's always the best thing for me. And I feel like we put so much thought into the prep and what we're cooking. And of course, it's important for food to taste good. But once you're all together, I feel like everything's delicious. Um, and then I also, especially like just love being able to wake up to the smells of Thanksgiving, or just having that time, like, quiet time, to just, like, prepare things and really relish in the fact that just, like, being really lucky to have another year to, like, celebrate these holidays.
If people want to connect with you, Nicole, where can they reach out to you?
Goodhousekeeping.com is where all of our stories live. We'll have a ton of stories on, like, what are your best storage containers. We often address how to use your storage containers, what to look for, and we'll have a ton of content there on all different types of appliances, all different types of recipes. We have a test kitchen that creates a ton of them. And from there, you could see my bio and you can see exactly what like I specifically wrote, but at the same time, I have a team that's testing. We're all doing this together. And then even so, even on Instagram, my handle is at Nicole_Papantoniou, so my full name. And I often post a lot of behind the scenes clips there of what's happening in our lab because it's just so hard not to. So that's one way of getting in touch with me directly.
Wonderful. Okay, well, thank you so much, Nicole.
You
It
got
was
it.
a pleasure speaking with you. Thanks for watching. For more Thanksgiving leftover ideas, Whole30 recipes, and resources, visit our website at whole30.com.